United States Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has asked the Venezuelan military to provide protection for the opposition leader Juan Guaido, whom Washington has recognized as the legitimate ruler of Venezuela. Pompeo also said that the U.S. would provide financial assistance of over $20 million to Venezuela in order to aid a regime change. The United Nations has said that only dialogue between opposing camps can resolve the situation in Venezuela. However, it raised concerns over the death of demonstrators and anti-government protests in the country. At least 13 people have been killed in protests against Maduro. Thousands of Venezuelans have taken to the streets of Caracas to continue their protests against the rule of President Nicolas Maduro. The protests came after opposition leader Juan Guaido proclaimed himself interim president and denounced Maduro as an illegitimate usurper. The United States, European Union and most Latin American nations have now recognized Guaido as the head of the state. However, Guaido has no control over the state's functions, which remain loyal to Maduro. Police took Peru's former authoritarian president, Alberto Fujimori, back to prison to finish the remaining 13 years of his 25-year sentence for human rights crimes and graft. This after a court-appointed medical panel concluded that 80-year-old Fujimori was healthy enough to be forced from the local hospital, where he was rushed for treatment in October, right after a judge annulled a pardon granted to him in 2017. The right-wing populist led Peru from 1990 to 2000. The new president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Felix Tshisekedi, has called for national unity as he succeeded Joseph Kabila through the country's first democratic elections in his inaugural address. Tshisekedi urged his supporters to build a strong nation based on development, peace and security. Tshisekedi's victory in last month's election has been marred by accusations that he struck a deal with the outgoing President Kabila to deny victory to another opposition candidate. Both Kabila and Tshisekedi have denied those allegations. Residents in eastern Congolese city of Goma, which is also a stronghold of presidential election runner-up Martin Fayulu, celebrated as they watched newly elected President Felix Tshisekedi being sworn into office in capital Kinshasa. Tshisekedi was sworn in before a crowd of thousands of supporters, government officials and foreign ambassadors in the Central African country's first transfer of power through an election in 59 years of independence. Italian Interior Minister Matteo Salvini has hit out at a special tribunal that had recommended a trial against him for refusing to let over 100 migrants disembark last year from a rescue ship docked in Sicily. If found guilty, Salvini could end up serving between 3 to 15 years in jail for having abused his powers. Following the court's move, Italy's upper house Senate will now be called on to decide whether Salvini can be tried. The Italian minister was placed under investigation in August 2018 after he denied entry to a group of mainly Eritrean migrants. Russia's defense ministry has said that the country's fighter aircraft has intercepted a Swedish Air Force reconnaissance plane flying over neutral waters in the Baltic Sea without its transponders turned on. Footage released by the Ministry of Defense showed a Russian Sukhoi 27 fighter taking off from an airstrip and flying parallel to another aircraft before landing. The ministry added that the plane returned to base after the Swedish aircraft had flown away from the Russian border. The ministry did not specify when the incident took place. least 4 people have been injured as a car bomb exploded near the Russian embassy in the Syrian capital of Damascus. This was the third such explosion in a regime-held area in less than a week. On Tuesday, a car bomb had detonated in the coastal city of Latakia near President Bashar al-Assad's ancestral village, killing 1 person and wounding 14. At least 1 person was killed as anti-government protests continue to rock several cities in Sudan, including capital Khartoum. Security forces fired tear gas at protesters as the demonstrations went out of control. Protesters have been calling for the resignation of President Omar al-Bashir over a worsening economic crisis. Authorities have blamed the unrest on infiltrators and foreign agents and said they are taking steps to resolve the sub-Saharan nation's economic problems. Greek riot police fired tear gas and stun grenades to disperse demonstrators who tried to break through a cordon outside Parliament during a protest over the Macedonia name deal. The police took action after officers were pelted with Molotov cocktails, rocks and flares. Over 2,000 people marched through the streets of Athens as lawmakers debated an agreement to withdraw objections to Macedonia's NATO membership if the young country is renamed North Macedonia. The deal is expected to be narrowly ratified in a vote set for Friday. In the inaugural speech at the Catholic Church's World Youth Day event, Pope Francis said that the right to a future is also a human right. Pope Francis participated in the event at Panama's foreign ministry alongside the country's president, Juan Carlos Varela. This is the first papal visit to the Central American country since 1983. The Church has asked Catholic youth to discuss social issues during the Youth Day. The event is held in a different city every 3 years. The efforts to rescue a 2-year-old boy who fell into a borehole in Spain has reached its final phase. The rescue brigade's miners have been preparing to go down the vertical shaft drilled parallel to the well where the toddler has been trapped since 13th January. Workers have found that the borehole was blocked with mud, raising fears that soil had collapsed onto the child. The boy, Julian, fell down the borehole shaft as his family walked through a private estate in Malaga. Missing Argentine striker Emiliano Sala's sister has urged rescuers to keep looking for her brother. The footballer's sister insisted authorities not to give up trying to find the remains of his plane that disappeared from radar over the English Channel. The search operation to find the Cardiff City player has been halted as rescuers speculated that the plane most probably crashed into the English Channel. The 28-year-old former Nantes FC footballer was on his way to Cardiff when the plane which was carrying him went missing. French carmaker Renault has named Jean-Dominique Senard as the chairman after its disgraced former head Carlos Ghosn stepped down from his post. Renault's Japanese automaking partner Nissan welcomed Senard's appointment, saying that it looked forward to starting a new chapter in their partnership following the arrest of Ghosn. The former executive is facing charges of financial misconduct during his time as CEO of Nissan in Japan. Senard had earlier served as the chief executive officer of the French tire maker Michelin. Britain's biggest car maker, Jaguar Land Rover, has announced that there would be a week-long pause in production in April due to potential disruption from Brexit, which would affect all 3 of its UK car plants as well as its engine plant. The firm has previously warned about the impact of Brexit. It already had to cut production due to slowing demand in China. Earlier, the company, which is owned by India's Tata Group, announced that it would be cutting nearly 5,000 jobs in UK. A dramatic video has emerged of a man being swept away by floodwaters. The man was trying to rescue a 20-year-old girl stranded in a car, being dragged away by a current in southern Turkey. The damaged car was towed to the shore after rescuers arrived at the site. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa will be accorded a ceremonial welcome at India's presidential house in New Delhi. Ramaphosa, who is on a two-day India visit, will be the chief guest at India's 70th Republic Day tomorrow. He is the second South African president after Nelson Mandela to be the Republic Day chief guest. A Berlin-based auctioneer is selling paintings made by former German dictator Adolf Hitler. The artist hopes that the artworks would attract buyers from all over the world. Before the outbreak of World War I, in which he fought, a penniless Hitler eked out a living as an artist in Munich, churning out dozens of postcards and paintings for petty cash. In fact, Hitler's earlier dream of becoming an artist was dashed when he failed to pass the entrance exam for the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts. The 17th Chagan Lake Ice Sculpture Festival in northeast China's Jilin province is offering a variety of recreational activities to tourists and locals in the chilling winter. Winter fishing on the Chagan Lake is a traditional sport for local fishermen that can be traced back to about 1,000 years ago. The fishing season started on December 17th last year, and the traditional operation has attracted numerous visitors from all over China.